düşer sevinçlerim. Bu yüzden hiç öğrenemedim. Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim. Bu yüzden hiç sevilmedim. Anlayınca bir ağaç ne kadar gövdesi.
So who is Moto E5 Supra for my future records?
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you
Oh,
hear me?
okay.
I mean,
Oh, yes, I was just testing
I'm
my
a
mic.
classmate. I'm on here. I don't know where the teacher at.
I'm the teacher. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just kind of getting it started. I'll come back at 6. Everybody can just kind of hang out if y'all want to.
Hello? Hello? Anybody here? Oh, I'm here. Where is Derek? For sure. All right. I don't know. I got my mic on. Everybody can hear me. Oh, it's hot outside. I need some breeze. What's going on? I could go in the meantime. Let me go to Canvas. Oh, what? Where they got
So is it just me and you today, Olivia?
Huh?
Is it just me and you today?
I don't know. No, somebody's coming.
Okay. Yeah, I saw. Well, he changed his name to, I don't know, something weird. It's like Moto.
But he coming back. I might see him pop up.
Okay.
But let's start the session. Yeah, somebody came.
Okay.
Yeah, give him time.
We met
Yeah,
the men.
Yeah, they came. I said,
uh,
oh, some people got to come.
it's like 6:01. Everybody, hurry up and show up.
Uh-huh.
Hey, that's perfect. I mean, as long that's on time, works for me.
Yeah. All right. Let me mute myself.
Okay.
Hello.
Hey, hola. Yeah. Okay. Well, shoot. I guess we can start today. So basically, kind of today. Let me try and move this mic without the one at my house without bothering you guys too much. Wow, we got like a whole full classroom. This is crazy. Y'all are already killing my audio 2 students. So let me kind of pull up my notes here because I do have some notes today. I was dealing with a bunch of studio crisis stuff earlier, so we're going to be looking up some stuff on the internet, but it should be pretty quick and easy. So like for today, I kind of want to do just kind of like a little bit of a history of the audio recording and how we got to where we are today. Because it's such a long history. And the crazy thing is like when you listen to music throughout the different ages and stuff like that, the technology and what they had available to them like directly played a role in how things sound. Like if you listen to songs from the 90s, they sound different than the songs for today. And it's kind of all tied to technology. And the way the recording industry has always been, it's always been like that. Let me switch over to a different screen here. So kind of like, have you guys seen like the Edison cylinder recorder? It was basically like the first these little things.
Oh, yes, I learned that in the history book.
right.
Oh, yeah,
So this was the first ever home record. It was the first ever recording device, basically, and it picked up. It's weird. It recorded and could play back, I believe, on the same machine like that. But what it did was basically as vibrations hit the air, it would hit this little wax cylinder, make little grooves in it, and when you play it back, it just plays back through this horn. There's not even a speaker or anything. It's just literally, it's a horn. These were kind of the first recording devices and playback. So if you were born if you grew up in the early 1900s, this was the technology of the day of like how you listen to everything. So that was about the 1920s or teens. I'm sorry. So right around the 1920s, an interesting thing happened, and people started getting like telephones. Telephones started becoming a thing. So that I should turn off my notifications. So that directly affected the audio industry, because all of a sudden, instead of wax cylinders, people are working with electrical signals. And the first electrical signals were kind of powered by vacuum tubes.
And it's kind of like frequency, like high and low.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they make radios.
Yeah.
And audios and FM and AM.
Yeah, and it's directly tied to the to the radio industry too. Radio, recording, and telephone are all super closely tied together. Well, there were like these crazy mad scientists back in the day that figured out if you take a light bulb and you put wires in one side and you kind of spaced wires apart from the other side, it would actually amplify the signal. And that's kind of what became known as vacuum tubes. And all of these are just different vacuum tubes. Oh, what was it was like an Auditube. Oh, Oh God. Anyways, I'm not gonna be able to remember it. But if you look at it, it's like, man, maybe it's called Audio Tube because it is wild. Audio Tube invention. This thing, Audion is what it's called. So this guy, basically, this is a light bulb, and on one you put power on one side, and the electrons spark all the way across to these little things. And what happens is you put different gases in them, and it reacts different ways. And most of the time, it makes things louder. So eventually they were able to refine this, so it worked better. But vacuum tubes were amplifying technology up until about the 1960s, and they're literally light bulbs, which is just wild. So this is going to be our amplifier until around 1960. If you look, there's like a tube amp over here. They're big devices. They run off of like 500 volts. They're lethal. If any of y'all play guitar or anything like that, and you have a tube amp, like, not to poke around there, because it will.
Does it go by amps?
It does. Amps is a it's a multiplication of or hold on.
Of identifying energy.
I'm thinking watts. Watts is overall power. Amp is how much it can deliver at one time, and then volts is basically how big that pathway is. If this makes sense. So if you get something and it's 1 amp but like 24 volts.
Like we doing science?
What's that?
We doing science?
Nah, I'm just kind of giving you all extra. You'll have to take audio electronics, and Mr. Wells will totally talk over your head. Anyways, what I'm saying is it used a whole lot of electricity. Like this stuff, if you touch it and you get electrocuted, you will die. So
I have a question regarding the Audion, I guess. So you said they used like maybe different gases. Were there any inherent risk with that too, or was it just?
Oh man, they were blowing up stuff all the time. A lot of the so they started using argon gas, which I don't think is like explosive, but like they use like neon gas. They tried them all, and some worked better for some things, and some worked better for others.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the mad scientist of like the 1920s. Like that would have been the coolest thing ever, to be a mad scientist in the 1920s with like light bulbs and electricity and blowing stuff up. I hope if there's reincarnation, I come back as that guy. But this is kind of like this is going to be our amplifier technology, and this is what's going to power us through the 60s. So right after they got done with the wax cylinders, it changed to something else, and it's something nobody's really ever heard of, and it's called a wire recording device. These things. Hold on, let me see if I can find this one. So what they did, this is almost the prelude to analog tape. So what they have is they have this wire, and you can see over here there's reels of wire, and they string it on one side, it plays through, and they figured out magnetism will basically recreate the waveforms, kind of like the wax cylinder did. So when you do it like this, it changes the energy to electrical energy and basically pastes it on this wire, and the wire goes around. And then that was the technology for a little while. But if y'all want to know like the craziest thing about this technology, like I wish I could find some more pictures. It's literally a piece of wire that rolls around, right? So the craziest thing, and I did not know this, is you hear about airplanes and the black box that like records everything.
Oh yeah, I I flew on the airplane.
Yeah, this is it. This is what
Guess
they
what plane I went on?
yeah, this is what they use for the airplane's black box. They used this up until 2010, which is
I
like
went on America Airlines and Continental.
yeah, yeah, yeah. America's cool. Continental.
America Airlines.
Continental is yeah, it's now United. But they used technology has been used up until very recently, but it was just very specific to airplanes, and they finally got away from it. But this
It
was
looked like a microphone like they used to use in boxing. You know, they be on the mic.
yeah.
They be talking. That's what they look like.
So this was kind of the technology for about I don't know in the 1920s to about 1930s, and in the 1930s that's when we had they like the vinyl record. You guys are familiar with vinyl records, right? And I can't spell either. Please tell me you all know what these are. They're not just gold and platinum.
Yeah, I know what they are. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's my era DJ right there.
Yeah. So yeah, so this works exactly like the wax cylinder, except for in a circle. I guess we don't need chat anymore. Works the exact same way, except for in a circle. So back in the day, they took Edison's device and they were like, oh, I have an idea. Why don't we use these amplifiers and cut direct to vinyl? Man, I cannot spell vinyl. So my spelling's horrible. I think I told you.
VINYL.
Yeah. So what they used to do, this is the new recording technology, right? This is the recording technology of 1932. So what they would do is there were no mixing consoles back then. They would literally put up a microphone and run it through a couple of those tube amplifiers and then just have this little thing, and then this would cut the grooves in the record, and then ba-da, you have your recording. One microphone, straight to vinyl. There's no editing. There's no nothing.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. And this is how they did it. Like all of this stuff is from 1910. We're maybe up to going this route, I think up to like 1940 about.
So just a quick question, sir. What would you say that like, I guess if they wanted to, maybe they didn't like the take or something, was it what would be like the cost of that? Would it be rather expensive, or was it like, you know?
The funny thing is back then it wasn't as expensive. They just pull the vinyl record off, put a new one on, do a different take.
Oh, okay.
Now once we get to analog tape, like that's where stuff starts getting crazy expensive. Now, like these machines are super high precision, stuff. So the machines themselves are extremely, extremely expensive. But as far as the recording time, not that big a deal. We didn't touch on microphones. The first microphones were called carbon microphones, and they are the coolest thing ever. Oh man. Oh, come on. Oh, these. Haha. So when you see the movies and it's like the 1920s announcer guy and he's like, that's the microphone he's talking into. And if you ever come across one, they sound exactly like they do in the crazy like Hollywood movies. They sound exactly like that. It's kind of wild. We're not really going to cover those. We'll get into microphones more towards the second half. But around this time, ribbon microphones were getting really popular. Ribbon microphones are also like some of the most basic kind of things. It's a magnet with a little piece of metal. And as it went back and forth, it makes magnetism. Makes magnet? I don't think that's the right way you say it. Creates electricity. That then goes out and goes to our tube amplifier. That then gets amplified and gets cut straight to vinyl. So this is what the actual inside of one looks like. So we're still really basic in the history of things. Eventually we did get to tape machines. Analog tape machine.
Can we do something that's before the audio engineering?
People went and saw live concerts.
Huh.
Like, yeah, there was nothing before that. Like have you guys taken music appreciation? Like, if you get a really cool teacher, either you're like a piano teacher, a music appreciation teacher, they'll talk about like the old Beethoven and Franz Liszt concerts and stuff like that, and it's just like packed auditoriums of people going to watch this guy play piano. And it's just, to me, it's fascinating because that was the concerts back then. That was the only way you could hear music back then.
Mhm.
How about like, did they used to do those big old chords and stuff, long extensions and stuff?
For
They
what?
had used like a lot of tape, a lot of extensions, tapes and stuff, right?
What back?
They used to did they used to you know, they said they couldn't mess up on a track, right?
We're gonna get to all that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're kind of bumping into about the 1950s, whenever analog tape really becomes a thing. And this, I wonder if I could find how analog tape works. This works the exact same way as that wire, except for instead of being on a wire, it's a flat piece of tape. And what it's going to do is, you can see over here, everything's pointing crazy directions. That's basically the magnetism, the positive, negative. And it's just crazy over here. But after it passes through and it sends the electrical signal to it, it basically rearranges all the arrows, and it creates, well, that's not a really good one. Basically it puts the waveform, oh, that's a really good picture, but not for what we're doing. It recreates the waveform and electrical signal on the piece of tape. So it's the whole tape. Back then, analog tape is kind of interesting. If you ever look at it, it has like a weird rusty color. Analog tape reel. Of course, I'm not going to really have a good picture. Now, you can kind of see it in here. That's because all analog tape is basically a piece of plastic with rust on it, which is kind of interesting. So back in the day, so now we're up about to the 1950s. They have analog tape machines, but they have one track. So you're still stuck with literally one microphone going into one thing, and that was about it. Well, around, I think it was 1956, a company named EMI over in England made a 4-track one. So basically, instead of recording,
They use that for filming, also audios, like film track audios too.
different type of film.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Different. So EMI came up with a 4-track machine, so you could record 4 tracks at once, which is crazy. So now you get 4 microphones. Analog consoles are just kind of starting. Do you guys know who Bill Putnam is? Putnam?
No.
Bill Putnam Sr. This is the coolest dude in recording ever. So Bill Putnam, he was the founder of Universal Audio, and he was one of the very first to actually make recording consoles. So if we look right here, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 knobs. If you look,
So Is that the UAD man, the one that got the Universal Audio that's live now? That's him.
Yep. Yeah,
Wow.
this is the very first. It wasn't called Universal Audio yet, but this is Bill Putnam's 610. So if you buy any UAD stuff, it comes with the 610. This is what it's based off of.
Mm.
It's based off of this, which is old. There's two or three tubes, basically for each one of these knobs. So there's about 25 tubes that makes this thing work. Not to mention the tape machines were also all tubes. There's a famous tape machine. It's an Ampex tape. This little guy right here. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to pull up the reverb offer.
I thought
But
it was-
oh, look, no, I'm glad I did. So this is one of the first tape machines that were ever made. And if you look, each one of these little metal cylinders right here is a vacuum tube. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 vacuum tubes to make this thing work. And this is only one channel. And if you look, it's only a 2-channel tape machine. Yeah, that's crazy. It's wild. So a company was like, why don't we just stick 2 more of these on it? And that's kind of what they did. And then so all of a sudden around 1958, 7, 8, we have 4-track machines, and we have tube consoles. So we're starting to get into first of all, more expense, because tape is expensive. This equipment back then was insanely expensive. And it was really, there were no manufacturers for this. This guy right here built this, and he built it because he needed it. Like, you couldn't just go to Sweetwater and buy these things. You had to build it yourself or have somebody build it for you. Everything was custom made, which equals very, very, very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So we get into this. This goes on for a while. It goes from 4-track to 8 tracks. And then 4 tracks, 8 tracks. The 1960s were about 8 tracks. And then something completely changed the whole game. And it was transistors. Oh, hold on. Transistor. Sorry, I can't spell. I keep telling you guys that. So these little things, here's kind of like a small image. These things are tiny, they're like the size of the end of your pen. These, all of a sudden, these will replace a vacuum tube. These do the exact same thing a vacuum tube does. It does it at a lower volt, lower amps, lower power, and does it just as good. But what happens, what the real impact of this is, all of a sudden, everything started shrinking. So around the late 60s, early 70s, things started to condense and get smaller. There's a famous console. Oh God, my red console. Have you guys seen this beast? Oh man. I'm actually gonna do it. So we're gonna look at this. So this is, if you guys have ever heard the Beatles, this is what the Beatles recorded on.
Yeah, I heard it.
Yeah, there's only a few of these in existence. I think Lenny Kravitz owns one now, which is kind of cool. If you look at it, it's not that, it's kind of weird because it's like 1 2 3 4 1 1 2 3 4 1 1 2 1 2. This was made to work with a 4-track machine, or 8-track, 4-track, 8-track. I think it's 8-track because there's 4 over here, 4 over here. But the crazy thing about this is, all of a sudden, like, look at the back. So, yeah, this is literally full of vacuum tubes.
Yeah, the vacuum tubes.
Yeah.
Which is had to be big, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's ginormous, ginormous. So the same company, and they're kind of giving it away right here. The same company came out with the EMI 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 console. So this was the first big push to transistor consoles. And if you look at it, yeah, it's a lot thinner. It's a lot smaller. There's legs. Like these things aren't just tubes. And there's way more channels in here. So we're kind of getting to where everything's expanding. Technology is making things smaller, making it lower voltage, easier to work with. You're able to pack more into less. And around this time is whenever the 24-track tape machines came around. 24-track analog tape. So like that one that we saw that just had 2 tracks in it. Well, now you have these and you have 24 in the same packaging that used to have 2. And this is going from the 2-track was, oh God, what, 1957, 8, I said? And then this is like 1970. So within like 12 years, all of a sudden, you don't just have 2 tracks or 4 tracks or 8 tracks, you have 24 tracks to work off of. And another thing about it is transistors are much more of a clean signal. The things start getting brighter and less muddy. Like if you think of like the old recordings from like the 50s, like the beginning of Elvis, like it just has this big fat round sound.
Mhm.
The drums are always tiny when you listen to those recordings, and the drums are tiny is because they had to use like 1 or 2 mics. Like, so they had to use a couple mics to pick up everything. And if you listen to like later Elvis, you know, Elvis after he's put on a few pounds, it's a different ball game. All of a sudden the drums are clear and, you know, crisper. There's crazy backing vocals, stuff like that. You know, that's the advent of transistors and you know, transistorized tape machines. It changed the way stuff sounds. So if you're ever working with somebody and they're like, oh, give me that 1950 sound, like you should pick some like tube stuff to try and get that sound. So things are kind of accelerating a little bit quicker at this point. There's another ginormous invention that comes into play. That's probably the biggest. The transistor is the biggest invention of last year or last century, by far. And then next we're gonna have monolithic IC chips. Oh gosh.
I found out something also.
Uh-huh.
The radio is just like Bluetooth.
Just like what? Bluetooth?
Yes, because radio use frequency. It's like they use a frequency, and then you can still hear the radio miles away.
Yeah. Well, Bluetooth digital format. Radio's a modulated format. It's a little different.
Similar though.
But it's wireless. It's wireless, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything so far has been wired except for radio stuff. But yeah, it's a different class. So if we do integrated chip. Sorry for my slow talking whenever I type stuff out. So all of a sudden we have these things. They're IC chips. And they're everywhere now. They're everywhere. So what IC chips did, when you had transistors, right, you had to take, hold on, I'm just gonna put transistor circuit. Oh, hold on, transistor op amp circuit. I spell everything wrong. Board? Haha. No, these are all tiny. Oh, here, I got it. You guys know what an API 2520 is? So what you did was back then, okay, so we had our vacuum tube, that's an amplifier, and we had our transistor, that's an amplifier. it doesn't quite work like that. You have to put it in a circuit to make it an amplifier. So it's got to be, you got to connect things in a certain order with certain resistors and yada, yada, yada. Next thing you know, it makes things louder. You have to do that with vacuum tubes. You also have to do that with transistors. So what the big thing with IC chips is all of a sudden they took this and they said, what if we just do this, but lay it out flat and just make it tiny? And that's what they did. So these little IC chips are the exact same thing as the big, what they call through hole or analog chips. So literally this thing is 1.1 square inches and this thing is like, I don't know, through half an inch at most or something like that. Oh man, I wish this isn't an audio electronics class. I have to check myself sometimes. But basically what these chips are doing is they're replacing whole circuits with just a little tiny black chip that does the exact same thing. So again, back in this is probably mid 70s whenever this really kicked off. So once again, we have another miniaturization. But on top of this, things become really cheap. So we're talking 1980s. And if you remember the 1980s, all of a sudden there's like handheld.
How they used to make those things?
What's that?
How they make those things? I'm curious.
Watch a YouTube video. It's wild. It is. There's some really smart people out there. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So around the 1980s, we get the biggest drop in prices. This is where companies like Tascam, Model 12, is that it? New stuff. Tascam started coming out with consoles like this. And whenever this came out, so remember before I said everything had to be custom made. Well, around the 1970s, people started selling boards. There were companies that actually made these products to sell to people. But whenever IC chips came around, it dropped the price even more. So this board right here, instead of selling for, $400,000, all of a sudden the people could get this board for like $12,000. So things started to come into reach for the home recording market. The prices started going basically. So you started seeing like Tascam, what was that called? Tape machine. Yeah. So you started seeing tape machines also start becoming more for the at-home market. Here we go. And then they started doing crazy stuff like this, like putting a tape machine into the recording console. But this wouldn't have been possible with vacuum tubes. It wouldn't have been possible with transistors. It literally took integrated chips to make this for a price point that somebody, without a business could actually afford.
So would you say that, I guess, like audio technology like this, like the boards and everything, have like in a way a direct correlation with like computers and stuff? Because I was seeing something how just exactly like you said, with transistors came like easier to make computers, made them smaller and everything, and easier or more accessible to the public and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean and it's also the sound of music. Now, like if you don't really listen to a bunch of old stuff, like it may not connect right away. But this is about the time where most of us are kind of getting familiar with like music from the 80s. But yeah, I mean, especially through today's music, it's followed technology the whole way. But yeah, so this was kind of the 1980s. With IC chips, also they were able to start doing more complex circuits. So there was one company. It kind of continued like this. There were a lot of companies that went from transistors to ICs that later got out of ICs because they didn't like the way they sounded. But one company that really changed the entire game again was a company called SSL, Solid State Logic. Well, hold on, let's kind of back up. So with the 1980s, computers start getting cheaper also. So let's just look up vintage computer. So computers have actually been around for, 80 years, something like that. Oh man, let me show you all this though. The first computer was called Colossus.
Yeah, I saw a picture of it. It's like really freaking huge.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
just a bunch of like wires and stuff, or like
Yeah. So
coils.
yeah, if you look at all these little things poking out right here, this is all vacuum tube. This is a computer. There's no screen, of course. There's a little printer, and it'll print out what it thinks is going on. And these things always had to be custom programmed. But beyond giant walls of vacuum tubes, computers kind of fell by the wayside. Like computers weren't really doing a whole lot back in the 50s. Outside of military, they weren't doing anything. Civilians didn't have these things. So 50s, 60s, right around the 70s is when all of a sudden there's like homemade. There's tiny computers. Oh, that is
the ones with the green screen, the green looking typing thing.
it's even
Green.
past that. Let's look up. Let's see if we can find 1970s computer, because I think they're still giant. Yeah, vintage IBM promotional film. The first one to really kind of break the market is a computer called Commodore 64. Yeah, this little guy. It's hilarious because it is expensive. They made a bunch of different versions of it. But the Commodore 64, I want to say, let's see, I wonder what year that came out. 1982. So in 1982, people actually got their first real taste of computers, right?
They use those in the office buildings they used to have when they worked back in the day.
Yeah, a little bit.
And stuff.
A little bit. This thing had as much power as like a scientific calculator has.
Oh.
Nowadays. It was not a whole lot of stuff. But this came out in the 80s, right whenever we're getting to is that thing? Yeah. Right whenever we're getting to, the Credit Tascam boards and the home recording. So you're seeing like electronics are kind of shrinking down and getting smaller. People actually started getting computers at home. And then this is where I was going with it. The company SSL came out with their, let me see if they have SSL first. Okay. So there's a company that came out, Solid State Logic. Everybody should kind of be familiar with them. So SSL came out. I'm just gonna do 4,000 because it's easy. So SSL came out, and what SSL did is they did something nobody else has done before, and they put a computer inside of this thing. So you see the little green screen right there? That is a computer for running this desk. That's all it was made for. It was custom built specifically for this desk. The SSL was supposed to be no hold bar, best of everything. It was the height of recording technology. Then it's still kind of the height of recording technology. What made SSL really special? Oh gosh, what was that? Okay, as long as I didn't delete you guys, I can't minimize. Anyways, what made SSL really special? There were a couple things. First off was the EQ. The EQ, this hadn't really been done before. It had been done, but not like this. The EQ is a fully parametric EQ, meaning
I
you have.
can't see your screen no more. All I can see is like where it's supposed to be your picture of you, but I can't see your screen.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Me either.
Yeah, me either.
At least I can. Ah, huh. Hold on. I got it. I hit a button. Did it come back?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for letting me know. Otherwise, I would have drawn on for hours. But what made it so cool is all of a sudden you have this fully parametric EQ, which other consoles had done this, but this is on every single channel, right here, all the way across all the boards. The other thing they did was they put a compressor in every single channel. I'm not going to look up their compressor. Their compressor isn't all that great. It's cool, but it's not all that great. But what made this so ubiquitous among recording studios is this little computer right here. And what the computer did is whenever you typed into here, you said, I would like to save this session, and you hit enter. Every single knob on this board, every single button on this board, every fader, everything, it recorded in the computer where that knob was. So whenever you're doing this and working with a client, you're like, oh, my next client's coming in, you just type in here and you hit save. And it remembers where all the knobs are pointing. And then whenever you want to load it back up, you just type in here like, load this back up, and this little screen would say, okay, channel 1, this section, this needs to be turned to this direction, and you just turn it there, and you do that, and you do that across all of the many of thousands of knobs. And you could save it, which is insane. That you were never able to do that before SSL came along, and that's directly related to all the downstream technology that came up to this point. These boards were insanely expensive. They were $1 million boards.
They still are expensive. That's the old board we used to have at school, but they changed it.
I know. I tried buying it from the school.
Yeah, it was expensive. It was like 50 grand. They sold it for, and it was super old.
God, for 50 grand, I totally would have bought that.
Yeah.
That board brand new was easily $400,000. But it's a lot of money. But with this board, let's see if we can do this. Oh, come on, SSL. 4,000 power supply. With this giant board, you had to have this is the power supply for that board. And what you're not seeing is another one up here. This thing is about 6-7 feet tall. Here's kind of a picture of it. Bam, 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 and bam. This is just to power the board. The actual power off of this console draws is the same as a small apartment building. So you can only imagine the electric bills that go along with this thing, which I may not have wanted to buy. But as far as this, if you think about it, so this is 1990s. They have like fully featured EQs, compressors on every channel. Tape machines. They're actually doing crazy stuff now at this point in time, where they're taking one of these tape machines, and on channel 24, they basically put what's known as time code on there. And what they do is they plug that into another 24-track tape machine, and all of a sudden they have two tape machines synced together. So you don't get 48 tracks, you get 47 tracks. And this is 90s. This is 1990s. So if you think about the music coming out then versus the music in the 80s versus the music in the 70s, like in the 90s, things was a lot brighter. It was a lot crunchier. You know, there were more effects in music than ever before. Things were, you know, music really started sounding very, very different. And then kind of, you know, going beyond this, you know, this is the 90s. And if you notice, I'm saying 1990s, and I haven't talked about Pro Tools or a computer once. Like this Pro Tools, oh, it's hilarious. Pro Tools started in like 1990 or something like that. Actually, I think it was called Sound Designer. Oh gosh, software.
I think DigiDesign was it.
DigiDesign wasn't even around at this point.
Was it?
Yeah, okay. Oh, here we go. Sound Designer. This was your first actual computer recording software. This is the precursor to Pro Tools. And
It
if you
looks
look,
like a game.
yeah, if you look, Sound on Sound, 1989. So this is what you started working with. In 1989, all of a sudden you can use your old Mac and you can record, I think it's 2 tracks of audio. But the first one, you couldn't even edit. I think a little bit later you could actually do edits and stuff. And this was like kind of groundbreaking, because back in the analog tape day, let me look this up. This is wild. Like when you messed up on analog tape or something like that, or if you're like, I have this really cool drum fill I did on this other tape, why don't you take that and splice it on my other tape? Splicing analog tape. Hopefully there's a good picture. So what these guys would do, you can kind of see them doing it there a little bit. Here we go. This is a good one. So you'll see this on tape machines, and it's an aluminum bracket, and there's 2 slices. There's one that's normally there's one straight up and down, slightly at an angle, and out at 45. And whenever you wanted to do that, paste 2 things together, you literally had to take the tape reel from one, find where you need to cut it, take the tape reel from the other one, cut that one, and then tape it. Like literally you put a piece of tape on it. Oh man, if I can find a better picture. Yeah, this guy's doing it. You cut it, you cut the other one, and then you just tape it together. So before we had Sound Designer, editing was crazy. You didn't do it. You just didn't do it. If you couldn't play the part, they fired you. That's part of the, you know, the argument for musicians back in the day versus musicians. Yeah, I got to it. Because back in the day, you couldn't play the part, you're fired. Like literally, you're fired. Get out of here. I don't ever want to see you again. And whoever can come in and play it, that's who's doing it. But Pro Tools kind of started changing.
All our guys said they can't ever come back.
Yeah, don't come back. So with Sound Designer, 1989, you got 2 tracks. You could edit a little bit. Of course, the sound quality was horrible. It wasn't anywhere near our sound quality today, converter wise, sample rate wise, all of that. But slowly, you know, computers over the 90s really started getting a lot faster. Computers actually got fast. Yeah, fast in air quotes. They aren't like today, but they got fast enough to where they could start adding more features to this. And then this turns into Pro Tools, but not really the Pro Tools we know today. Pro Tools 5. But it's the old. Oh, here's a cool picture. The old Pro Tools versus the new Pro Tools. So Pro Tools really started coming around. Computer recording in the late 90s really started taking off. There's stories, and they're absolutely true stories, about how studios started going, oh, computers are the way of the future. Computers are it. Like that. That's the thing. That's what's going to become recording is computers. So these companies, these recording studios started throwing, like literally they bought a computer and threw the entire studio out. All their analog equipment, just got rid of it because they were like, this is the way of the future. And you know, they were wrong to throw it out, but they were right that digital is the future. So just to ask a fun question, do you guys know what the first hit song that was done all digitally in a computer was?
Lucky guess.
Google it, but I'd rather you tell me.
My lucky guess was.
It was Ricky Martin's "Livin' La Vida Loca" in 2000.
In 2000?
Ricky Martin.
About something.
Ricky Martin, "Livin' La Vida Loca" was the first all digital recording platform that made a #1 hit.
That's funny.
That's
Then
hilarious.
I gotta search it up.
Huh?
I gotta search that up.
Yeah. So that's crazy to think of. Ricky Martin, "Livin' La Vida Loca" was the first song all done on a computer.
But look at what genre that's in, and the type of, those are the type of people that would have thrown out all of their analog trying to come up with a better sound. Because I'm sitting here looking at it like, yeah,
It's
that would be the one to do it.
It's nothing to do with the sound. It's the price. Like the price, analog tape. So when you're working with analog tape, let me pull this. Let's look this up. Let's go to shopping. Let's do 2-inch analog tape. $345. This is for one reel of tape, right? This is a master tape. Doesn't matter. It's practically the same. So you're talking about, it's $300 for a reel of tape, right? Remember, I said tape is just, it's a piece of plastic with rust on it, right? So the more you play the tape, the more the rust flies off and the worse the tape gets. So you have to have another tape to back up that tape, right? So hang with me for a second. So let's talk about how they would actually do this, because you don't want to diminish the recording quality, because the more times you play the tape, the more you lose the rust on the tape, so therefore the sound degrades. So, right. So you're recording a band. You do the first recording. You take that tape and you tape that's $345 on that tape. Then you put that on another tape as a backup tape. So that's another $345. And then you work off that tape to record the next part, and then you back it up to the other tape, and then you swap tapes, and then you back it up to a completely new tape. So we're already cracking $1,000, and we've only done a couple overdubs. So the price for analog tape, having to replace it, every day, like, a few times a day, starts really adding up. Like, you're talking in a recording session back then, you're talking probably $8,000 for tape. Whenever this Pro Tools system will cost you, $30,000, but there's no tape. Like, you're not, after that investment, you're golden. Mm-hmm. So that's the big thing with digital. It had nothing to do with the sound. It sounds horrible. It does not sound good. And I've heard analog tape compared side by side, like straight off the tape versus straight out of the computer, and the tape just hands down it wins. It's amazing. If you ever get a chance, do it. But that's around 2000, people started making the transition away from tape. They're done. Tape is old. Nobody wants it. It's way too expensive. So now we're getting into kind of the beginning of the computer age around 2000. This is where companies like Waves, Waves plugins, they were some of the first to ever make plugins. So that, that kind of cemented them into the plugin world. So if we're thinking 2000s, like what were some big hits around then besides La Vida Loca? Like what was the top? Timbaland. Perfect. Yeah. So if you think, like, if you listen to like the way Timberland stuff sounds, it's
he does auto recording too.
Yeah. Well, listen. Think of his old stuff. That there's like such a simplicity to it that we don't have nowadays. Like, along with this whole computer thing, because we're solidly in computers over the past 20 years. I mean, computer process. I wonder if we can find this. Computer processing speed over the past 20 years. Computer. Wow. Let's see what this shows.
I saw somewhere that it doubles every year, something like that.
Yeah. So it's an exponential curve. Here, oh, that's not. This is just from. Oh, this is RAM. Okay, here we go. That's funny. 96. So anyway, so it's going 71 to 91. It's about 1,000 times faster. Or number of transistors. Anyways, it's way faster, is what I'm saying. So back in the day when Timberland was doing his stuff, it sounded like Timberland. If you did stuff that sounded like Timberland today, I don't know how well received it's going to be, because it's just not in fashion. The really dry sound with like one reverb and a delay, and there's no effects, like there's no big effects or anything like that. And then you fast forward today, and like Travis Scott's Sicko Mode is crazy. Like the amount of effects that are there could not have been done 20 years ago. Like it would not happen. Travis Scott would not be Travis Scott. Timberland from back then, he's still doing stuff, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
The sounds that come out, it's wild. Like you're not there would be no T-Pain would not be T-Pain had it not been that he was born in the time that autotune was a thing. Yeah, he can still sing, like he's an amazing singer still, but it wouldn't have been T-Pain. So you can like directly correlate technology the entire way from like the 20s and the sound of the 20s and the big bands and stuff like that, all the way up to today, where there's just wild effects, and it's 200 tracks in a session. Even 20 years ago with Pro Tools, you couldn't get 200 tracks a session. And it's all just directly correlates to how technology has progressed over a century. Oh God, it's been a century already. So that's kind of my blurb. I hope y'all kind of at least saw some cool stuff with that. I just always thought it was like the coolest, really connecting all those dots. And then the funny thing today is hybrid studios are all the rage. Hybrid studio. And that's what we have at HCC. Everything is hybrid, meaning you have Pro Tools. You could do it all in Pro Tools, but you also have the consoles, and you could do it all analog. Or you could just blend the best of the both and do part of it digital in Pro Tools, part of it analog, part of it with outboard. It's just an amazing time to be doing this kind of stuff. That's weird. They have subs on the desk.
Yeah, it's nicer to do it. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, it's nicer to do it analog sometimes because, like, if you do it from the computer, like, let's say if you have a lot of plugins, you can't really run so many plugins at once. Sometimes, like, if you have universal audio, like, you can only run like certain plugins.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. You're stuck within your limits. Especially with UAD is a little different because you know how many plugins you're going to get. Like you know with your UAD2 card, you can get 3 of the Neve 88 RS. But like if you're doing plugins that run off your computer, you don't know when that end is going to be. Like all of a sudden, your computer may just be like, "Ha, you're not doing anything else."
Yeah, that's why you need to like freeze tracks and
Yeah,
just keep putting. When I'm mixing with universal audio, usually what I do is when like I'm on my limit, I bounce it with the whole thing and just keep adding, which is really annoying.
yeah, it is. I have I back in the day I used to have 4 UAD cards, and I have a UAD quad, and I have a UAD solo also. I have the solo here, the quads at Trigger Hill. Uh,
Damn, nice.
yeah, it's 15 years of buying stuff. But the biggest advantage for me for analog consoles like this is everything has a knob. Like if you want to change the
I
EQ,
noticed that.
yeah, if you want to change the EQ, you don't like pull up Pro Tools and then go here and be like, oh, which EQ do I use? Oh, this one. Okay. Hey, let's turn up like the high frequency. Oh, but change this. Oh, let me do it both at the same oh, I can't do that. With an analog desk, you just reach over, you just do it. It's a fast workflow. Um, and analog really does sound really good. Um, but to each his own. There's 1,000 different ways to do this. But yeah. All right. Any comments, questions? We can take like a little break, and I'll actually get into what we're
I
actually.
learned something from this.
What's that?
I learned good things about auto recording and interesting facts of the recordings about the instruments and equipment.
Oh man, yeah. If y'all have questions about that kind of stuff, like I'm totally down with going down like the rabbit hole about how like the Beatles did all their crazy studio tricks, because it's really fascinating stuff. Yeah, for back then, before computers.
Did we ever figure out how to upload the work from last week? Cause on Thursday I couldn't get Lord to open it.
Yeah. What we're gonna do is if you have the full version of Pro Tools, all you need to do is message me the PTX file, and I actually found out you can send it to me in Canvas. So you can just go to where your session is, and then just send me a message on Canvas and attach it to that. All I need is the PTX file. I don't need all that.
I'm gonna say, because I zipped mine up and sent it to you in Canvas, I think.
Yeah.
Upload. Yeah.
If you have Pro Tools first, it's going to be a little bit weird. We're going to have to figure out exactly how to do that in an easier way. But yeah, we'll keep working on that stuff. Do you guys want to take like where is my? Oh, it's over here. Do you guys want to take like a 10-minute break? Come back at like 7:15. Because we're going to start really getting into mixing, and we're going to start on EQs and stuff. And I got a bunch of stuff to show you, and then this will roll into our next project. So,
I have a question, Andy.
Yeah.
About my project, did you like notice a little error?
I haven't pulled it up yet. I was going to do it after class today. I've been out all
Oh,
day.
okay.
Yeah. But I will let you know. This is. I've shared regular Pro Tools files before, so this should work, but there may be a little bit of growing pains that we have to figure stuff out, but as long as you contact me and be like, oh, I'm trying to send it in, or I'm having problems or whatever, just keep me on the loop on stuff, and we'll make sure we'll get everything working. All right, so 10-minute break. Come back at 7:16, and then we'll do some mixing stuff. We'll start talking about EQs and stuff. And I have like, I'm gonna start you guys off on the right foot for mixing. It's gonna be great.
Sounds
So,
good.
Cool. I will see y'all at 7:16.
All right.
What we supposed to do? I forgot.
We're just taking a break.
Oh, great.
Yeah, come back about 7:16. Hey, Aisha, we're like doing a little break for a couple more minutes. Just didn't want you to think nobody's here.
Okay, thank you. I'm so sorry I'm late. I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
no worries, no worries. So like I'm gonna be up tonight. I got to get my YouTube thing all together and stuff like that. But I'm gonna upload these so you can watch it again.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for understanding.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. I'll be back in like 2 minutes,
Okay, perfect.
and everybody else should be back right around then too.
Okay, sounds
All right.
good.
All right, cool. Okay. I hope some people made it back. Um, so we're Aisha, you missed it. Like the first half of the class was basically we were kind of talking about how we went from, the very beginnings of recording stuff and audio back in like the 1920s, kind of up to the present day. So that was about all it was. Um, so now we're gonna move on. I want to talk about doing. I really want to get you guys like started off on the right foot with EQ, because there's a lot of people who don't explain it well, or they'll show you charts and they're like, this is how you do it. That you don't do things by off a chart. You do it by listening. Now the problem with that is if you haven't been trained like what to listen for, you don't know what to do. So we're gonna kind of like I want to go over that, like listening to stuff and like really comparing things and listening for specific things to kind of give you an idea of what to do. Um, so whenever I
So,
talk, what's up?
are we working off of the session that you sent us?
No, no, man, I'm not gonna make y'all keep listening to that. This is something completely. This is only for the lesson. This isn't gonna be y'all's project. Y'all's next project. I don't think I'm gonna give y'all this song because I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of it. It's okay. It's an okay song. There's a lot of problems with it, which is why I picked it. um, so whenever we think, like when you think about EQ, it's based off of frequencies, right? Um, and there's certain frequencies as you go along, you'll start figuring out what the problem there is, or like what to listen for. And I don't like speaking. I don't like speaking in frequencies. I'm not going to tell you 336 hertz. That's the frequency you cut on a kick drum. That's a lie. Anybody that tells you otherwise is they don't know what they're doing. Let me see. I can't remember if I downloaded this photo or not. Yeah. So I think this is it. Come on, Windows, do it. Okay. So when you think about frequency and EQ, forget the numbers. Totally forget the numbers. You'll figure out the numbers afterwards. What you need to think of is in descriptive, like what about the sound do you like, or what you don't like? What do you want to bring out? What do you don't want to bring out? And eventually it'll all start making sense. This, doing recording, doing mixing, anything like that, it's repetition. This is why you're going to have 4 audio classes, and the 4 audio classes, you're going to work on different gear. You're going to have different teachers. But part of the idea of this is you got to keep doing it. The more you do it, the more things click, the more things you figure out. And with EQ is one of those that's the toughest to kind of figure out when you're starting. It's also tough just later on, but eventually you get used to it, and you know what you're going for. But don't go by numbers, go by descriptive terms. So if you're talking about a bass, like a bass line, not like an 808 bass line, not like a funky bass line, just like some synth bass line. If you're listening to it, there's some things that you hear it and you know it, but you don't know what frequency it is. But if you're like, it's boomy, like that bass is a little bit too boomy. Well, there's a frequency. Oh, look, it's actually on my chart. I was not reading that. But that frequency, like, you'll start figuring out what that frequency is. And this is, I looked through a ton of these, and this is the only one that I saw that really was like, you're right about all of that. So this is kind of like a cheat sheet, but go use it as a cheat sheet for descriptive, not frequency. You'll figure out the frequency. You can work off their frequency. It's not always going to be right there, but it's going to be around there. And this was the best out of all of them that I found. So when you're thinking about it, like if you're thinking about like cymbals or something like that, or take a person's voice, right? You can listen to somebody's voice and be like, sounds a little muddy. Is muddy's the term? And you're like, oh, okay, muddy. So this is saying like, it's about 500 hertz or thereabouts. Normally it's about 300 and something, but you'll have to find it. You can also say like, like their vocals are really like airy, or it's a little bright. Or, Attack is actually 5K. I can see Attack. Fat 250 hertz. I don't know about that. But like the thick, thump, solid. It's good to think about it in this terms. A lot of times, I'm sure you guys are like familiar with the EQ cheat sheets and stuff like that. There's a few different ways. There's like the people that are like, this is how you EQ vocals. Well, if you read about their stuff, low end rumble, and I think rumble is on our thing, 40 hertz. Like Boxy, Boxy's on our thing too. Bite, mid-range bite, presence, biting, harsh. Like it's just really cool. You
It
don't
has everything on there.
What, this?
Like every EQ.
No, this is just a loose guidelines.
Okay.
Yeah. There's no, you don't EQ things the exact same song by song, even if it's the same artist, same album. You don't, copying and pasting isn't always the right way to go. Sometimes you gotta do it. But everything that these things tell you to do, it's all descriptive. Like, don't look at the frequencies, forget the frequencies. Think about it in descriptive terms, and then you'll find the frequencies. And the more you do it, the more in your head you'll start saying stuff to yourself and being crazy like me. But it starts making sense. Like, if a vocal's too harsh, like, what are you going to cut out? 2.5, 1.5. you know. And then even when you get to those little bitty nuances between like 1 and 3K, there's a difference, but you'll have to learn that yourself. That's the experience part of it. But for EQing, go by descriptive. The other way to think about EQing is you're like, well, what do I EQ? Like you hear the song, you've never heard the song before. So the first time you hear it, you know, your first instinct is to be like, that's the way I hear it. That's the way it is. Well, once we start picking stuff apart, you'll start being like, oh, well, you know, I don't like the way this sounds. I like the way this sounds. So there's a couple ways to use EQ, and right in front of us, there's two. There's bad and good. So when we think of bad, we're thinking about fixing. So when you listen to a sound and you're like, I don't like that, you know, that you need to fix something. Now, on the other hand of that, you may hear something that you like and you're like, wow, I wish that there was more of that. So that's kind of enhancing. So with those two, basically, you want to remove the bad and bring up the good most of the time. And I'm going to say weird stuff like that all the time, where I like say something and then take it right back. But that's just, you'll figure it out the longer you go about this. So when you think of EQ, you can think of fixing something that sounds bad or enhancing something that sounds good. There's also a third part to this, is music, instruments, all of that stuff. When you look at charts like these, I want to get one. Okay. When you look at charts like these, you see that there's a lot of overlap between the instruments. Like a bass, the blue is like kind of the fundamental tone and the red is harmonics. But you can see that the bass overlaps with the cello, violin, guitar, harp. Who knew the harp was like that? You know, clarinet. Things overlap. So what you need to do is you need to create separation. You have to make room for things. Otherwise, they just stack up on top of each other and it starts sounding bad. And those are...
It's like the EQ is important to music because it's like when you hear it, it got to sound clear, sound on point and all that.
Yeah. You have to you have to give everything a home. Everything has to live somewhere. You can't have two instruments taking up the same frequency range and expect it to work. It's going to sound bad because things, we'll get a little bit onto this in a little bit, but things stack on top of each other. So if something they both have a frequency that's going crazy at 300 hertz and you put two of them on top of each other, you know, it doubles the volume for that frequency.
Yeah, usually like an example so will be like the bass and the kick and the low frequencies are usually like clashes. So you need to make a decision. Like you're gonna either take the bass or the kick. Well, it goes with a lot of things, but
there's a trick for getting the kick and the bass, which we'll get into a little later. But yeah, exactly. It's things that sound similar, that overlap in frequency. You have to make room for those. You have to figure out which one's going where. So we have fixing or enhancing, and we have making room. That's if you're EQing, you know, for the bulk of everything you do, those are the three things: fix, enhance, or make room. And then, well, we'll get about that a little later, I think. Let's go over to Pro Tools. How many people are, I guess everybody's wearing headphones. Is somebody on speakers?
I have headphones.
Okay. So I haven't played this before yet. It should play
I
fine.
get headphones? I can get mine real quick.
As long as you mute while we're playing back, otherwise we'll get a weird feedback loop.
Oh, okay.
But anybody that's wearing headphones, everybody turn your volume down because I'm going to play this. I don't know exactly how loud it's going to sound on your system. I don't want to blow out anybody's ears. So just turn everything kind of down, and I'm going to hit play. And then I'll have to turn up the limiter on the end until we figure out a good volume for everybody. Cool. All right. Let me play like a little bit louder section. Is that not quite loud enough?
Yeah, it's good.
It's good. Everybody else, that's good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's okay. Cool. I didn't know if I'd have to put a limiter on the end of it and squish things and stuff like that. So with this song, I've never really done anything with this song. I assigned it to my Audio 2 class, and I haven't listened to it. So why don't we? Well, first off, let's look at instrumentation, because that's going to tell us some stuff on this. So here, I'm going to go ahead and color code stuff. If you double click in this little area right here, it'll also pull this up. I think I told you that last time. So we have drums. I'll make those yellow. Drums, bass. I can't make them both yellow. And then we have that many electric guitars. They're kind of all in different spaces. I'm just going to make them all the same color, blue. And then a lead vocal and a doubled lead vocal. So already, just looking at this, drums all kind of have their own spot. Kick and a snare doesn't really overlap. We're going to have issues with the kick and the bass somewhat, because they're in the same frequency range. But man, all of these electric guitars, there's going to be so much overlapping frequencies that we're going to have to, kind of figure that out and find out who goes where and who's going to dominate and all of that. Like, maybe I'll pan one to the left, one to the right to, make some more space. But we'll get to that. I guess we could just we're just going to listen. We'll just listen to just the drums right here. And now let me mute everything else and then wrong key commands. So we'll listen to the drums. I'll kind of solo some stuff. Just the kick. Kick's kind of flabby, right? Sounds flabby. Kick, snare. Turn that up. Snare actually sounds pretty good. Overheads. Rim mics.
I hear the drums. It needs a little bit more, I hear it, the drums.
Y'all need me to make it louder?
Yeah, the drum.
I'll just make everything, because I did have to crank up my volume. So I'm just gonna turn it up. I don't know, 4.5 dB. It'll be a bit loud.
Yeah.
Better. So besides the boominess with the kick drum, it doesn't sound bad. Let's hear what just the bass sounds like. The bass is cool because it has a tone, but it sounds like really honky.
Oh yeah, I heard it.
Like it's this weird honk, low mid, something that makes me feel uncomfortable. Maybe it's more like an upper end honk, but it's definitely weird. So we'll have to address that. There's like the flappiness on the kick drum. Now, let's see how they sound together, because the kick and the bass are kind of in the same frequency range. So right off the bat, the bass now drowns out the kick. So they definitely do clash. So we'll have to fix that. Now, oh God, let's see what these electric guitars are all about. And not only that, like we need to look at the structure also. Like where do they play? Because with this many, there's gonna be a main part. There's gonna be a main part which I'm pretty sure is this one. This is probably going to be some sort of accent part. Oh, it's just 2 takes. It's 2 takes. So it's the exact same guitar part played twice. So they're definitely going to overlap. There's definitely something like, I don't, not really bitey, but it's like a upper end bite honk thing.
Yeah, I heard it.
Let me see if I can find this thing, because now I don't know how to say it. Harsh, I guess. Biting. Okay. Biting. Right. So when those two play together, something in this frequency range is freaking it out. Because I'm like, oh, it sounds a little bitey. It just sounds weird. So there's going to be something in this frequency range that when both of them play, it adds up. So got to fix one, put it back down. But we're just listening to tracks right now. Let's listen to see what this weirdo little thing is. It's probably some run. Cool sound, but it's so like, I don't know. It has like a weird muddy, but also honk, right? I bet if we play all 3 together, it's going to sound way weird. So it's definitely like things are adding together. And, you know, we're kind of, I can definitely hear problems that are coming. So if we look at these 2 parts, we said this was the main guitar. If we look right here, see how it plays, it stops playing, it plays, it stops playing, and these guitar parts pick up. So I'm just going to move these next to each other. And to kind of differentiate them, I'm going to put this one on there too. I'm going to change the color again because this is a different part than this. So just being aware. Wow, let's hear what this sounds like. Okay, so guitar 5 and 6 are their heavy guitars that just really are not heavy. It's supposed to be distorted and crunchy. I can already just tell. I guess guitar 4 picks up where the other one left off. There's all sorts of like weird upper frequency stuff. We don't need to listen to these, but let's check out the vocals because they do sound good. But I listened earlier, and when both of them play, it's like, whoa, what's going on?
Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim.
Actually, there's quite a bit of harsh stuff on hers. Like it just sounds harsh. Which, if we look over, 2.5K biting. It's a little harsh biting. Okay, I'll go with that. But then when we put the double vocal in,
Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim. Bu yüzden hiç öğrenemedim.
all of a sudden it gets way more complex.
Is that a different language or is that reversed or something? What is going on with that?
With the 2 vocals playing together?
I mean, just with the vocal period, is that just the way she said it, or is that another language, or did they do something to the vocal?
Yeah, I think she's speaking in French or something. Yeah, different language.
Yaprak,
So this is the background one.
yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim. Bu yüzden hiç.
So we're going to have lots of problems.
What language is that?
I think it's French.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and what we'll do is let's see if we can get the kick and bass together. So we know we need to fix one, or maybe we need to fix both. And then when I put when the bass in, let's kind of listen and hear what's going on. So the attack is getting lost in the bass. Or I'm sorry, the attack's getting lost in the kick. And the attack on the kick sounds pretty decent. but it does get lost in the bass. But then the bass of the bass cancels the bass of the kick. So right there, like we can kind of say, okay, well, why don't we take a little bit of the bass away from the bass? We'll use FabFilter. So FabFilter is kind of cool because there's it gives you frequency range. Let me make this a little bit smaller so we can see the difference here. So if I play them, the left is the kick, says right here, and the bass is the bass. So this will play the frequencies. We can kind of look and see what's going on. So like, look at the overlap right here and right here. So we can visually see that there's some overlap. So what we can do, this, kind of for ear training, is on FabFilter, you can solo stuff. So we'll solo the frequency range of that and listen to the difference. I have to mute the bass, sorry. This may make it a little harder. Let me make these smaller. Oh, mini. I'll make this one mini too. Mini. So if I solo it, sounds cool. It's kind of like a beater knock.
It sounds tight.
Yeah, it sounds way better than whatever the original or the full thing is. So we may have to listen to that and take that into account. Let's listen to what's going on in the bass. Okay, so this is obviously practically the fundamental tone of the bass, because you can see the low note right about here. So which one do we try? Y'all got a preference?
I prefer the bass to have a little bit more.
Okay. So why don't we try making room for the kick?
But it can't overpower.
Yeah. Let's try making a little bit of room in the bass without taking the actual bass away. And then maybe kind of enhance a little bit down, because we don't want to do the same thing in the same note or same area. So why not on the bass? Oh, I have to make it small. So why not on the bass? We'll do 3 decibels, and then over on the kick, we'll bump it up 3 decibels. We'll just see how that sounds. So I can definitely hear the kick drum now. Like as before, if I bypass these, I don't think I can hear it. I can hear it, but it sounds like a slap. It sounds weak. It sounds super weak.
Yes, I think it needs to be opposite and flip it.
Yeah, let's try opposite. I don't. Yeah, let's try it. Okay, I can see that. The bass at this point, the bass would be taking the low end, which I don't. Well, let's listen to the song. Does the
How
song?
about both of them be kind of 3 decibels together, and probably a little lower though for the bass?
What, a little lower for the bass? Man, I could bypass that too. Yeah, but see, we're cutting the kick, and we already said we like that frequency of the kick, right? And the bass just kind of seems to be swimming. Like,
So that means I gotta bring the bass a little more up a notch of the hertz.
Well, I'm just gonna keep it in the same spot.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna swap it around, because that really, it enhances what I like about the kick, and it takes away what I don't like about the bass.
Mm-hmm.
So let's kind of listen to everything. Okay, for right now, I can go with that. So when we're talking about like building up a mix, right? A lot of times you'll start with the rhythm section, which is going to be drums and bass, and you kind of get that where you want it, and then you kind of just keep adding along, and then you go back the other way. So it's basically if you do kick, bass, other instruments, you can kind of just go left to right, and then come back around, go left to right again, and just kind of keep doing that until everything sounds perfect. So listening again, the snare sounds kind of weak, right? Because we're listening, we're trying to listen. We don't want to talk about frequencies. We want to talk about, feel. And for me, I feel like the snare is just kind of a little dull, or it just doesn't have the weight. It doesn't have like the weight and the body of the thud. So I kind of want to bring that out, and I could actually look at this now. So not the bad side. Let's try fat, because I do want it fatter. It's not very fat. Let's just do it myself. Yeah, it sounds super thin. If we look at the frequency analyzer, it's kind of cool because it's jumping at 200. Now, if we look back over here, our fat says 250. Maybe thick. Like, these are the adjectives I more want it than. I don't want warm. It has plenty of presence, definition, attack. It is bright. I want it fat, thick, thump, and solid. So it's going to be somewhere in this frequency range. So I'll put it all together. Let's start. Why don't we just start at 100 hertz? So I definitely like the weight, but there's another problem. It now all of a sudden got pokey. Notice I haven't said a single frequency besides the chart. But it sounds pokey to me. There's something, whenever I turn that up, now something kind of hits me in the ear, and I'm like, oh, that's that hurts. So if we look, boxy, it could be a little boxy, a little tubby, a little muddy. So why don't we try somewhere in that region? So already I'm liking the way it sits better. Does it need a little top end brightness to it? Why not? We're here, right? So I'll play it, and all I know is it needs top end brightness. I don't know where that brightness is, but I definitely guarantee you it is past 1K. So we'll just play with it until it sits right. So I'm actually pretty happy with that. Like, that sounds pretty cool. I do feel like we lost a little bit of the low end on the bass. It just it seems more tony and, just kind of bright. And I don't really want it like that. I want it thick and thumpy.
It's resonant though. It sounds nice and resonant.
Does it?
Sandy is a professional.
I'm doing this on cruddy headphones, and I need you guys. This would actually be the best way to mix a song with like 5 other people and be like, hey guys, what do you think of that snare? And all of a sudden there's like 5 or 6 other people on 6 different products. That would be the coolest. You know what? But she brought up a good point. Sometimes concentrating too much on one thing, it skews your opinion of what's going on. So let's go ahead and we'll just keep moving. We'll just start putting stuff in, specifically the guitars, because I don't really have a level on them yet. But let's scoot back to, I don't want to do the very beginning. Let's do this. And what I'm going to do is, instead of just leaving it up here and unmuting it, take the fader and turn it all the way down, especially if you're not sure level-wise where it should go, and then just kind of push it up until it sits right. kind of works. All right. Like she said, keep going. So we'll go ahead and bring in the other one. We'll do the same thing for it. So there is that little bit of weirdness there. Only one of these is going to need it. We'll see. We'll see. Like by itself, it sounds cool. It's when the other one's in there. So why don't we do it on the one that doesn't play for the whole time? Like, see how this plays? Make it a little fatter. So we should EQ this one. And we said it was some weird, like, honky thing or something. So we'll just go back to Fab Filter. So if we look at our thing, honky, muddy, I don't really think it's bitey, but it's kind of muddy, kind of boxy. I don't think boxy is at 250 hertz, but we'll go with it. So here's another way to kind of do this. Instead of picking a frequency and just going, that's the frequency to cut. Sometimes you want to go, oh, that's the frequency that sounds really bad, right? So what you want to do is kind of boost it to find the frequency and then cut it. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to boost it, kind of sweep it around until I find that weird frequency, and then cut it and see what happens. So. Like that sounds pretty bad right there, but I bet there's more. Oh, that may be the winner because it's this weird ringy sound. Let's keep going. So it could be several of those, but I think what I was hearing was that one like right around 600. It also seems to fill up the room. So why don't we just kind of kill that? -6. You can really hear the difference when it's boosted though. You can hear it and go, oh God, that's the sound that's really killing me right now. So let's see how it sounds with everything. Still don't know how I feel about that bass, but we'll keep going. So on this electric guitar, there's something else going on. Okay. So this has a really similar, just hearing it by itself, it has a really similar kind of weird ring around where the last one was. And I bet if we put it with everything, oops. Oh, come on. There's something going on. And if you're not like too sure, like, because I know that there's something going on, and I can hear the honk. So if we listen to it and you don't know what frequency it is, it doesn't fit into our little descriptive term box here. The best thing to do is kind of take it and sweep it around and see what's going on. And the cool thing, this does have a frequency analyzer down here, so you can see what's going on. That's probably the one, but I'll keep going. Here it kind of, whoa. So you can kind of pick, there's like 3 different ones right here. And if you kind of boost it, you can listen and go, oh, okay, well, this is the one that I need to. that one's really hurting my ears. So that's kind of the one that I pick. It doesn't really fit because it's a weird ring box sound. And it sounds like it's a higher frequency than it actually is. But I think that's kind of which one I'm looking for. So. Sounds cool. Keep moving. See what's up with these electric guitars. I forgot what I had said about them. Oh my god, that's a mess. So it already sounds a little boomy, right? So if we go to boomy, 60 hertz, I doubt that. Boomy, boxy, tubby. I guess tubby. I think these other two, well, let's listen to both of these. Okay. So there's definitely some weird kind of honk going on. But here there's another one, so let's combine it with this one. Oh, that's a completely different sound. Oh, you can hear that. So let's go ahead and piece these together. So we'll just listen. They're kind of hard. It kind of gets lost. Now, one thing we can try and separate them instead of by frequency and space. So we could pan one left, one right, see if that does the trick. Sounds kind of cool. It sounds a little unbalanced. There's still some weird honk in there, though. And then also just like, there's like an enhancement it doesn't have. The other guitars are really bright, and these are really dull, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But I also kind of want these to stand out a little bit easier. So first, let's kind of fix that honk right there. And I don't know where, I bet it's that same like 600 hertz region, because it's that weird feel. Oh, that's it. That's it. What does this thing say? Boxy? So we'll just cut that. Now, I also want this to stand out because it sounds dull. So if it's sounding dull, it doesn't even say that over here. But if it sounds dull, then, add some high end. Like, what do you want to add? I want to add, honestly, I want to maybe add some attack and definition. But I also kind of want to make it airy. So I'm combo moving this. So if we listen to it, it's kind of weird because they're both on both sides. But hey, let's just try airy. Not really making much of a difference, which happens sometimes. If it's not there, you can't boost it. So it sounds better. I would like to maybe copy this over just because I know I want to take out I want to do the exact same thing on the other side. So it does sound way cleaner. Like if I bypass those, how do I bypass that button? Sounds cleaner. So everything together. Doesn't sound bad. Maybe they sound a little loud or something. Oh, that's right. There's the other one. So this one definitely has some sort of weird honk, I guess. Not really sure what it is. So I can sweep around, see where I can find it. I don't know what that is, but I want it gone. And now there's like a weird another like kind of weird boomy, and I can see it here. We could also solo it with this thing, which is kind of cool when it's tight like this because it sounds crazy. So that's definitely the other piece that I want to cut out. So everything together. So let's see. Let me see if I can remember how to mute things as a group. I think, is it that? Okay. So I'll do before and after. And this is just a little bit of EQ. Like really listen to how things fit in and sound. Wow. Oh, come on. Versus. So it definitely, when you bypass everything, you can hear like all the honkiness come out, and you can hear it like it just sounds funky. But then when you put it all in, everything just sounds so much smoother because there's more space for stuff. We figured out what was clashing.
Yeah, also I feel like without the EQs and stuff, it just kind of sounds like a little more mashed together as well. It's
Yeah.
not that good.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, so we're doing the first pass of the mix, right?
Yeah.
So, for time's sake, I'm not going to deal with any of these things over here. It's just more guitars, and the last thing the world needs is more guitars. So let's kind of listen to the vocal with everything. And I don't know the volume that this should be at, so I'm going to pull it down, hit play, and then just kind of move it up. You can also get to the volume if you need to. Like if you want to see over here, and you don't want to mess with this, if you go to the vocal, and you have the IO open, if you click, this is your output, input, and output. If you click the little fader looking icon, it'll pop up a fader, and it's the same fader that's on. No, come on. That's on this side. So if I move this, just a little trick. So I'll hit play. Why don't we do it over here? So there's a few things. First of all, it's super, super dry, and I just kind of can't deal with that. So I'm just going to add a reverb to her voice real quick because it drives me crazy otherwise. Also, it's just not as cool. Let's use R2. I like the far plate preset. Wide. And we'll get into all of this, the whatchamacallit, auxiliary synth and stuff. Nobody wants to hear it without reverb.
Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim, bu yüzden hiç öğrenemedim. Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim, bu yüzden hiç sevilmedim. Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim, bu yüzden hiç öğrenemedim. Yaprak gibi düşer.
Okay, at least it sounds a little more decent. But there's, like I said, there's all sorts of problems with her voice. There's some weird harshness. It's not really thick sounding. It also seems to clash with the guitars. And do I still have that little chart pulled up? Like vocals, of course you made it tiny. Vocals are just like they're gonna take up a ton of range. Okay, female. But they overlap with so much stuff. The kick, This is all classical. The kick, the guitar. So these are all things you have to take into consideration, especially if you separate the song into two groups. You have the percussive element, the rhythmic element, which would be drums and bass. Bass is also melodic, but it's not it's not carrying the melody. And then you're going to have guitars, synths, and stuff like that, and vocals. So those are going to be your main two overlap groups. So I definitely know that we have some problems with the guitars and vocals. But let's just kind of put an EQ on the vocal. I'll go back to pop filter. And just kind of listen. There's definitely some weird bitiness. So, maybe we take care of that first, 1K region. And I'm going to be kind of precise here.
Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim. Bu yüzden hiç öğrenemedim.
Yeah, that last one hurt.
Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim. Bu yüzden hiç öğrenemedim.
Okay, it's way less harsh. It's not nearly as, bad as it was. Now I kind of want to make, I want to give it some fat and warmth. I would say body. That's what I kind of call this area. The 125 to 500. I call it body a lot. Just it's just where the thick essence of it lives. So we'll kind of click that, boost it, move it around until we find just the perfect little spot.
Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim.
Oh.
Bu yüzden hiç öğrenemedim.
So kind of right there, sounds decent. Why not go with it? I also, so we fixed the bitiness that I didn't like. We made it a little bit thicker, but I also, like things a little brighter too. So when we think about bright, 10K. 10K is an awesome frequency, by the way. I don't talk frequencies much, but 10K. But let's kind of hear what that does.
Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim.
Sounds pretty good.
Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim.
So that sounds cool. I like that. We'll do bypass.
Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim. Bu yüzden hiç öğrenemedim. Yaprak gibi düşer.
It sounds way better, but there's something in there, and I can't really put my finger on it. I don't know. It just feels weird, right? And sometimes you'll get these feelings. You'll be like, it feels weird. Oh, I don't know what descriptive term I'm trying to say, because I don't, nothing's really matching up. But it just, something doesn't feel right. So in that case, maybe why don't I just kind of make a little tight EQ and sweep it around and listen for what I don't like, because there's something I don't like.
Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim.
Oh God. What was that?
Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim.
So obviously that hurt the most. And that's a good way to do it. Like if you don't know what you're, oh, is it still going? I think it's still going. If you don't know what you're looking for, just kind of cut it down and, see what you find.
Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim.
So there's something going on with a little bit of mud, and I'm just gonna guess that that's where that little hump was.
Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim.
Sounds kind of cool. I don't know. So let's bypass everything again. How do I do that? That button? No. Sorry, I work on Macs and PCs and I get confused. So yeah, let's try it.
Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim. Bu yüzden hiç öğrenemedim.
So that's kind of, we still have the other vocal to go through. Um, this bringing up this other vocal kind of gets me onto another thing. Let me see if I can. Well, I'll just go. Oh, till not, okay. Kind of goes to another thing. Have you guys heard of the Fletcher Munson curve?
Yes.
Let me pull it up because it's. Oh, God, you guys so cannot spell.
No.
No, no. Okay, so this is some guys way back in the day. I don't know. It was like the 40s or something like that. They were like, "Oh, we should find out how our ears hear, because our ears don't hear everything at the same level, right? So we hear certain frequencies we are more sensitive to than other frequencies." And what this chart is showing, this chart's backwards. Whenever it goes down, this is we're for our sake. When this goes down, more towards the bottom is a louder noise versus, or no, hold on. Yeah, no, that's right. So what this is basically showing, imagine that this is low volume at the top and then higher volume at the bottom. So what it's showing us is what our ears are most sensitive to, right? So if we go around and look at this, it peaks at 1K, then there's like a bump at like 3K, and then it goes down again, and then it falls off. Our ears hear 1 to 3K the most, the easiest. That's what we hear the easiest, and the reason for that is because that's where human speech lives. So that biology and evolution has, taught us to be more sensitive to hear other humans around us, for talking to each other, or if somebody's yelling for help. It's just the natural evolution for that. So we're always going to be the most sensitive around that area. So when we're thinking about two vocals, what we got going on is we have one vocal that we're sensitive in this area, and then we have another vocal on top of it that we're also sensitive in the same area. So almost always you're going to have to pick some leading vocal, and the easiest way to do that is to remember this little curve right here and say, okay, well, on one of them, I'm definitely going to have to remove some 1 to 4K. I'm not going to say it's a given, but it's practically a given. So whenever we play these two together, I'm just going to go ahead and use that knowledge to pick around that frequency. And then I'll kind of boost it and cut it, and we can just try to find a spot where they meld well.
Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim, bu yüzden hiç öğrenemedim. Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim, bu yüzden hiç sevilmedim.
And you can hear it, like when it cuts, like all of a sudden you can hear it all click, and you're like, oh, that's what it's supposed to sound like. Like that's what it should sound like.
Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim, bu yüzden hiç öğrenemedim. Yaprak gibi düşer.
And even there, if you move it a little to the left, it changes the feel of it. It makes it sound like more like there's two people. If you move it to where I have it now, it sounds like there's one person with another person just directly behind them. If you move it a little bit more high frequency over here, again, it makes it sound like there's two people, but it's a different tonal shift. Because instead of high end, all of a sudden you're having like the essence of their voice, which is where we are biologically tuned to hear, kind of better at. So yeah, that's so we made our first trip through the mix. We're doing good. Let's listen to it again with muting and stuff.
Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim.
Maybe I'll turn this down, Ted.
Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim. Bu yüzden hiç öğrenemedim. Yaprak gibi düşer sevinçlerim. Bu yüzden hiç sevilmedim.
So, pretty good for the first little run through left to right thing of this. So if we were continuing to mix, because we've been going at this for like 2 hours, if whenever we start mixing stuff, if I were to continue mixing this is exactly, I would do practically the exact same thing. I would work from my rhythm section over here, and then start adding in melody stuff, and then add in vocals, and then listen to everything kind of together, and then go back and listen to each individual instrument in the mix and go, oh, okay, what do I think about this compared to this compared to this compared to this compared to this, and then move on to the snare, this compared to this compared to this compared to this, on down the line. And you do that a few times, and next thing you know, like you've in your head, you've critically listened to say, what do I want to fix first? Well, what do you want to fix? You should always fix stuff first. And then what do I want to enhance? And then what are the problems between everything? So you kind of run that a few times, and you end up, you end up with a pretty good mix at the end of it. Like that's how a lot of people do stuff. Eventually, once you get this down, you're just kind of working off feel, and it becomes more like playing an instrument than clicking on plugins and moving stuff, because you start working faster and faster. But then again, this is all about repetition of doing this stuff. So whenever the next project's going to be mixing. I don't know if we're going to do compressors or not. It may just be EQ. I don't know, because compressors are a whole nother thing. But do it like this. Like, get your rhythm, get your melody, and then go back and check everything against everything else, and then go back and do it again, and then do it again. And then, by the time you get done with that, you'll have something that sounds really good, instead of, just going like, well, compressor EQ. You're making logical steps towards all of this, towards a complete something that you want to hear. So yeah, does this make sense? Does anybody have questions on this stuff, or just kind of like extra input or anything?
So all I learned is that EQ is a long process, and it has to be good. I found out you have to just EQ until you hear it till it sound clear.
Yeah. If you take it steps at a time, because it seems daunting at first, and you think it's going to take forever. But if you take it a step at a time, you start whittling it down until you have something good. The more you go across this, the more you do this, the faster you'll get. And EQing will eventually become like second nature, and it doesn't, EQing takes no. Yeah.
I do have a question, and I guess regarding more, like hardware. When it comes to like mixing and EQing specifically, I mix only like with my headphones on. But I ran into a problem a while ago where I was mixing a song, and I played it back on my headphones. Everything sounded good, and then when I played it in the car, better speakers, better bass and stuff, I was like, damn, there's a couple things in there that I didn't hear, like in my headphones and stuff.
Yeah, I did that one time with my music, trying to mix it and playing it in the car. It sounds different. Yes.
Yeah. That's one of those.
Oh no,
yeah.
Sorry.
That's one of those things that you have to, kind of keep practice. Your car's right. Whatever you listen to music in the car a lot, so you know what music should sound like in there.
Yeah.
And it could be one of those, like, it could be one of those things that you're just learning how the headphones sound.
Mhm.
That sounds weird, but like eventually you learn what should sound like, and comparing it to stuff that's out there is the perfect way to do it. Take it to your car, listen to it. And if you're like, oh, it has, too much bass or too much of this, or this is too loud or that's too loud, go back inside, fix it, come back out, see what's going on. Like, that's how you'll eventually get over that hump. So, and then at some point, you'll get used to it, and you won't really even have to check. You'll just be like, oh, sounds good. Anything else from anybody? We've been crushing it for like 2 hours.
I was wondering how we turn in the last assignment,
Are you on Pro Tools first or?
the Pro Tools 10, I think. Or...
Oh, okay. So all you need to do is go into Canvas and send me a message, and then only attach the PTX file. Don't attach the audio files, because I have the audio files, so it should work. And then just send me the PTX file, and I could download it and open it, and it should link with all the audio.
When you say, are you saying the PTS file or PTX file? You mean
PT.
the little thing that looks like the Pro Tools logo?
Yes.
Session
Yeah.
file?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The session file. Yeah. Looks like a little Pro Tools.
So is it a different? Is it different if you just have Pro Tools first?
Yeah. So do you have Pro Tools first?
Yes.
If Let me pull this up. I just realized I can like literally show y'all. Oh, do I even have Pro Tools? Yeah, it would be this is, if you're on regular Pro Tools 10 or whatever higher, you just send me the Pro Tools session file. Now, if you're on Pro Tools first, if I close this version of Pro Tools, we're going to lose the audio, so I can't do that. But if you have Pro Tools first, there's like the collaboration setting, and I'm still working this out. So we'll have to figure this out. But there's a collaboration setting that you can turn on and off, and I think, yeah, I don't have that. You'll either have to send me a collaboration, or you'll have to let me sign into your Avid account, so I can basically I just log in like I'm you and say, oh, yep, let me download that. But either way, it's going to have to be uploaded to Avid
Okay.
for me to get it, and it's something we're going to have to figure out the best way to do it. So, no, I'm not crazy worried about that, but yeah, that's something I knew that was coming.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, cool. Aisha, you're turning yours in on first.
Yes.
Message me whenever you're ready to turn it in and be like, hey, I'm ready to turn it in, and like maybe I'll do like a little video for you or something to show you exactly what I mean, and we'll see if it works.
Okay. Thank you so much.
So do I need to resend mine to you? Just send you a message and just attach the PTS to it?
No, don't worry about that. I got your zip file. I'll just do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
no
right.
problem.
About mine, is everything okay?
I haven't pulled them up yet because I've been out of town all weekend.
Okay.
Wait, where do we send the message?
In Canvas. So like if you go, I don't know how your view looks, but if you message me on here, like I have two inbox, you can just message me and you can attach files to it, and then just attach the little Pro Tools file, or be like, hey, I'm on Pro Tools first, ready to turn it in, and we'll figure it out.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, if y'all have issues with that, just let me know. Aisha, just let me know when you're ready to turn yours in. And that's literally all I got for today. Next class, next class, if you guys, when is that? Thursday? Oh, let me look at something real quick. Sorry. Yeah. If you guys need help with stuff, project wise or questions or whatever, like I can totally Zoom chat with you guys. I'm thinking Thursday I may log in and just keep working on this if you guys want to check it out. I'm not terribly sure just yet, but there's not going to be a meeting.
Assignment too?
What's that?
Is this assignment too?
This will become assignment 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But this Thursday, we'll use this Thursday for turning in stuff and working on it and finishing it up. So I'll be available there too. I may do, if people are bored, I may just pull this back up and have like a free Zoom link if you guys want to jump in and check stuff out or talk or whatever. But Thursday, we
just have a Zoom Thursday to just give us time and ask for help for everyone.
What's that?
Like Thursday, give a post, if anybody needs help, go to this Zoom, set up a Zoom or something for everybody.
Yeah, I've said that for the last couple Thursdays.
Okay.
Yeah, because I do that with my other audio T class too. Yeah, so, but yeah, I mean, if you're like Thursday, like, see what teacher's doing, hit me up. I mean, I'm free. I have that time set aside for y'all. Even if y'all just want to chat about stuff, I'm perfectly cool with doing that. Or if you need me to help you or, whatever y'all need, I'm here. So.
I got a question, Andy Diego. You have any YouTube videos?
D'Angelo. It's D'Angelo, not Diego.
Mr. Andy, I had a question. You have YouTube videos of you auto engineering?
No,
Oh, you just behind the scene.
Yeah, I actually don't think I have any YouTube videos with me.
Okay.
Like I have an Instagram and stuff like that.
Oh, Instagram? Oh, okay.
Yeah, my Instagram's kind of fun. It's all audio recording stuff. And sometimes I Photoshop my cat on synthesizers in space.
And put the cat on there?
Yeah. It's man, I'll just pull it up real quick because I was gonna have this be our screen for audio. I don't have the actual one. Do I have
the one with your cat?
Where is this cat? Yeah, this was gonna be our cover photo for the class. I have another version where it's the cat and the cat's going this way and the lasers are coming out of her eyes, but it's a little Pro Tools logo and it's all in flames.
It's in another galaxy engineering.
Exactly. So this is like my Instagram stuff. But yeah, y'all hit me up if y'all need stuff. I'm completely here and available for y'all.
All right.
Cool. I will see y'all. I'll see y'all next week.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.